Tennessee's about to have its best NFL draft showing in quite some time. What can that mean towards recruiting players into the program? That has a lot to do with it. That and a whole lot more here on your Tuesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it. This is Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me here today, subscribing to the Locked On Vols YouTube channel and listening to us, making it your first listen wherever you get your podcast. Always find me on Twitter at _Kaner and at Locked On Vols. Got a fun show coming up today. Some fun topics. We continue to sprinkle in some NFL draft content because Tennessee is going to be very relevant in the NFL draft, this year, right? I mean, we've talked about it throughout the Senior Bowl games, the Reese's Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, that type of stuff. We carried that over to the NFL Scouting Combine, to the Pro Days, and now just a couple weeks away. It's at the end of this month, the NFL draft, and I mean, Tennessee's got five players projected in the top 60 picks. And that's really, really good. I counted them up, 12 players overall that could find themselves on NFL rosters from this past season. How does that help recruiting for right now? Here at the conversation in segment one. Jerome Carvin joined me and Brent Hubbs on the VolQuest Rocky Top Rewind Sunday night. If you didn't get a chance to see or hear that, I'm going to play part of that interview here on today's show in segment two, and then I'm going to answer all of your mailbag questions that I got sent in. A lot of good ones today. That's coming up in segment number three. So, how does getting guys drafted into the league help with recruiting? Well, it might seem a little elementary. It's like, well, duh. You got guys that want to go to the league and make money. Absolutely. There are three big pillars in recruiting right now. And we can debate the order that they go in. But number one, in my opinion, is can I get to the league? What can you do for me to get me to the National Football League? That's my goal. And understanding not every college football player is going to go to the NFL, but still, coming out of high school, you're being you're being recruited and being signed by Power 5 programs. It's the best of the best, right? In the Southeastern Conference for the most part. You have aspirations of going to the National Football League. So, in my opinion, number one in terms of recruiting, and there's a lot of things, but can you get me to the league? One of those other pillars in my big three is name, image, and likeness. Hey, we live in the era of NIL, right? I mean, that if you are a big-time prospect, NIL will be, one of those things that you weigh heavily on if you're going to choose this school or that school. Now, making the big-time NIL, profits off your name, image, and likeness, once you get on campus, that doesn't, the big-time money, I mean, that doesn't convey to every single person, right? Not every person in the 25-man recruiting class is gonna be seeing significant earnings off name, image, likeness when they get to campus, but some of those top ones could, and especially at those premium positions like quarterback or like a wide receiver, offensive tackle, stuff like that. Edge rusher. But name, image, and likeness is certainly in one of those big threes for me. And then the third one, for me would be, comforts, relationships, and winning. Just, kind of those other things. I guess that's more than, just one thing there. But winning. What's the health status of your program, right? And so, again, I'm still going to come back to number one, and what I think the most important thing is for these top-tier recruits is, can you get me to the league? Because, sure, it'd be fun to earn stuff off NIL, when you're in college, but you can make some real money depending on where you're drafted into the National Football League. And so looking at what Josh Heupel did last year in the NFL draft after his first season with Tennessee, and then looking at what's to come for Tennessee, it's really impressive. Velus Jones was the third-round pick. You had Cade Mays, who was drafted later on. You had Matthew Butler, who was drafted later on. You had Theo Jackson, who was drafted and is on an NFL roster right now, which is really, really good for him. No one would have thought that Theo Jackson would have been a draftable player early on in his career, but it kind of goes to development, right? I don't think I'm missing anybody from last year. If I am, I apologize. But off the top of my head, it's Velus Jones, Cade Mays, Matthew Butler, and Theo Jackson, right? And so that was kind of what Josh Heupel had to work with and what he produced after season number one in Knoxville. Understandably, he didn't bring these guys to campus. He didn't recruit these guys, but he developed them their last year and got them drafted. And the same thing is, for the long list of guys who are going to be drafted and or signed to rosters and to mini camps and training camps here coming up in the next couple month or so. He didn't sign all these guys, but boy did he develop them. Darnell Wright is going to be a first-round pick. Jalen Hyatt could potentially be a first-round pick. Hendon Hooker, there's first-round chatter right now because of the position that he plays at quarterback. Potentially will be a first-round pick, but in my opinion, he'll be a top 60 pick regardless. Cedric Tillman is probably going to be a second-round pick. Byron Young is probably going to be a day 2 pick. And then you've got guys like Jerome Carvin, Jeremy Banks, who very well could be drafted, but we'll be on, we'll be in camps no matter what, especially Jerome Carvin after a really sharp and strong pro day. Then you got other guys like Princeton Fant, Latrell Bumpus, Paxton Brooks, Chase McGrath, Trayvon Flowers. All of those guys I could see not being drafted, but will be given an opportunity to go and try out for a team and or teams, right? So when you're sitting here and you're a prospect and you're being recruited, highly rated recruit by Georgia's, Alabama's, Tennessee's, LSU's, Florida's, all that type of stuff in the Southeast, Ohio State's, Clemson's, anywhere, Oklahoma's, USC. And you're sitting here, and I think one of the things that Tennessee's been missing for a while, because, again, it's been a program that hasn't won a lot of games and ultimately developed a lot of players to win a lot of games, was that piece of the puzzle in terms of getting guys to the National Football League. And now I think Josh Heupel can say, hey, we won 11 games last year. We won a New Year's Six Bowl game last year. We beat Alabama last year. We had the best record in Southeastern Conference play in over 13 years last year. And, I put, we, he won't say I, but we put, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys in the league from this past year's NFL draft, right? He can finally say that. I think that's big. I think that's really, really big. Now, every recruit is different, and each prospect values things a little bit more than the other, and that's what makes this thing fun. But at the end of the day, if you want a program that is healthy, check. If you want a program that's winning, check. If you want a program that's got a healthy name, image, and likeness and collective groups, check. If you got facilities, check. And you got guys you're putting in the league. Tennessee can check all those boxes right now. And I really think, as we continue, I'm going to hit this topic after the draft, but I keep teasing it, right? I mean, when you look at what Josh Heupel's done so far in winning 7 games and then winning 10 games in the regular season, then winning a New Year's Six Bowl game and putting all these guys into the league and the big wins that he's had so far, and then stats like leading the nation in total yards and total offense and scoring offense, and proving so much defensively from year 1 to year 2. I know you're saying Alabama game or not the Alabama game, but the South Carolina game, which Alabama game, you give up 48 points, but you won that game against Alabama, so who cares? And I hear all that, but still the defense took a ginormous step in year 2, and I think this defense is going to take an even bigger step in year 3. I think Tennessee's defense, and I understand it's April the 4th right now. I think Tennessee's defense is going to be good in 2023. I really do. So when you sit here and you look at everything Josh Heupel's done in such a short amount of time here on Rocky Top, it's really, really impressive. But I think one of the biggest calling cards he's going to have in recruiting from here on out, especially after the NFL draft, and is going to be saying, hey, look, I just produced X amount of first-round draft picks. I helped develop. My staff developed. And look at Darnell Wright. He played, but he was not a first-round draft pick before Glenn Ellerbe and Josh Heupel got here. Jalen Hyatt definitely wasn't. Hendon Hooker definitely wasn't, even though he played a ton at Virginia Tech. He was definitely not in the conversation of being a top 60 pick in the NFL draft. Cedric Tillman went off in 2021. He was on nobody's radars. Byron Young, Jeremy Pruitt got him here, but Josh Heupel coached him the entire time, and Rodney Gardner and that staff, so he wasn't. Jerome Carvin was a guy that played an awful lot, but I don't know if he was in a position to be considered a draftable player until this last 2 years. Jeremy Banks was not. Princeton Fant definitely wasn't. Latrell Bumpus definitely wasn't. Paxton Brooks maybe. Chase McGrath maybe. And then Trayvon Flowers definitely wasn't. And again, those names towards the end, I'm not saying they're going to be drafted. I'm just saying those are the guys who I think could find themselves on rosters at least to get an opportunity this summer. So I think Josh Heupel, again, continuing on and having such a great start to his Tennessee tenure, but getting guys to the league, specifically getting guys to be early round draft picks where you're cashing in those checks, those signing bonuses, getting more deals. I mean, if you're a first rounder, you get a 4-year deal with an option for 5, right? A team option for that 5th year. I mean, Darnell Wright is going to get that here in a matter of a little over 3 weeks. So that is a really, really good thing for Josh Heupel to use in recruiting, and he's also been recruiting pretty well so far, bringing in the nation's #1 player in Nico Imaliava this past cycle in 2023. But I think all this can really help him moving forward. Things are healthy at Tennessee right now in terms of the football program. It really is, and it's mind-boggling to think that 2 years ago to the day, you had so many questions and you were under a big old cloud of controversy, right? It's truly amazing. Hey, when we come back, we'll hear from one of those guys that Josh Heupel and Glenn Ellerby helped develop the past couple of years. Jerome Carvin joined Brent Hubbs and me on the Rocky Top Rewind Sunday night, VolQuest.com. Going to hear from Jerome Carvin when we come back right here on Locked On Vols. But hey, the Built March Madness bracket, it's still here for right now. I know that the tournament championship was last night, but I know you love your bar puff and you got your favorite. It's time to make your vote count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorites. When you vote for your favorite bar or your puff, you're going to be entered to win a drawing of 50 lucky Locked On listeners to get a free box of Built. I like free stuff, and I'm sure you do too. Not only that, but one lucky Locked On fan is going to win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly and straight to your door. What makes Built bars and puffs so good? For starters, they're so high in protein, they're low in sugar, covered in 100% real chocolates. That is right, it is real chocolate. So right now, run to BuiltMarchMadness.com to cast your vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote for your favorite right now, and that's at BuiltMarchMadness.com. Kind of when you sit here and think back of Thursday and what you did, position drills, 40 times, all that type of stuff, meeting with some teams, kind of how would you evaluate your turnout? How did you do on Thursday in your opinion?
Yeah, in my opinion, I did pretty well. Everything that all the teams wanted to see, I kind of checked out all the boxes, if that makes sense. As well as in the skill work, showcase all my abilities, showcase my punches, showcase how well I can move and things like that. And I think a lot of teams thought I did pretty well after the day.
Jerome, how stressful is that day? Because from the outsider looking in, and I know athletes have confidence. You can't be an athlete at that level. But from the outside looking in, it looks like it would be a really stressful day. The day before would be really restless. How did you go about it, and how challenging is that day when so much is about a number?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the day was really stressful, I guess the day before, but, you kind of got to rely on your preparation. You put in, 2 or so months worth of work, and you grind hard for this one day, this one opportunity to showcase what you have. And, I relied on my training, the guys at Triple F with Lee Smith and with Rich, those guys, did perfect with me, had a great plan for me coming in, working out, as well as X3 in Fort Myers, Florida, where I was training. And, honestly, after that, man, we're competitors at the end of the day, and you go out there and compete. And so that's probably the thing you worried about the day before. I wasn't too nervous about it, but I just went out there and did my thing and was competing.
Well, Jerome, kind of adding on to that, I mean, with the stress of the day and all that, and I know you're going to go out there and compete, but it's something you and I spoke about. You didn't get an invitation to the NFL Combine, so for you, in terms of the physical attributes and everything, like this was it. And I think you made the most of it, of course. But did you kind of go into that knowing that you always play with a chip on your shoulder anyway, but you needed to go out there and leave no stone unturned on Thursday in everything you did? Because again, this is the only time that these scouts might be seeing you during the draft process physically.
Yeah, most definitely. Not getting invited to the NFL Combine. This day had to be important. This day was the most important thing for me, and obviously I took it very, seriously. And with that being said, it had to be perfect for me. I had to knock it out of the park. So in order for to get the attention from NFL scouts and GMs and things like that. And so this day was certainly a circle for me. I had a lot of time to prepare for it, a lot of time to train for it. And so definitely thankful for that. And I just went out there and did my thing.
Jerome, what's the feedback been since then, but for you and your agent, and kind of where do you think things go for you now after Thursday?
So yeah, now it's like in terms of you have either top 30 visits where teams invite you to their facility, where you can get to talk to coaches and talk to guys in the building, mostly like administration parts of the building, and obviously get physical stuff there. They can't work you out at their facility, but they can come down to Knoxville and hold private workouts with offensive line coach can come and hold a private workout, as well as send up Zoom interviews with O-line coaches and coaches in general. Just get more background information, as well as getting to some X's and O's, see what you know, and things like that. And so now it's like the process that we're turning into now before April 27th.
Do you feel like that there's going to be a pretty good handful of those based on the feedback you've gotten from Thursday? Do you think you opened eyes to generate some of those kind of visits, whether it's either you going to a team facility or coaches coming to work you out? You feel optimistic about that?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. A lot of the teams I talked to after Pro Day already are about to schedule interviews and things like that with my agent as well. So, I mean, I had a handful of teams that came up to me and said they'll have opportunities to get on the Zoom call with me with their O-line coaches and things like that. So, I'm pretty optimistic. I've had plenty of opportunities for that.
Todd says, Jerome, appreciate your hustle and your contribution to the success of 2022. Of course, Todd, a Tennessee fan watching right now, and a Jerome Carvin fan. Jerome, some of that feedback that you have gotten and received from these teams, does a lot of it have to do with your ability to play all three of the interior spots, both guard spots, being able to snap the football? When I think of an NFL roster, right, I mean, you only get 53 spots, I think, and your ability to play three of those spots, I feel like, would be critical into making a team and obviously being a draftable player at this point.
Yeah, that's probably the main thing every team has I talked to has brought up about me, because and you draft me, you get three positions in one, type deal. So I mean, it's huge, as well as how how the NFL works. Like you just said, it's only 50 people who can active on the roster, as well as like I want to say like only 7 offensive linemen travel for a game. They actually dress out for a game. So of course you got your 5 starters, and then the other 3 guys got to be able to play out multiple positions, because you never know what happened in the game. So that's probably the most, and I guess for me the most important thing I have to prepare for, as well as showcase what I can do, and probably the best thing I can do, honestly. Just my versatility, being able to play all 3 positions without drop off. So,
Jerome, what has playing for Glenn Ellerbe the last 2 years meant for you? I mean, you played before he got here. I'm not suggesting that you didn't, but there was another gear for you, and I think part of that's in the natural maturity. But for whatever reason, it seemed you and Darnell in particular, a couple of you guys really seem to thrive with change. Change is not always easy. Why did you thrive with the change here, Jerome? Why did it work for you?
Yeah, I would say Coach Ellerbe was a huge thing in our success, especially in the offensive line room with me and Darnell, and as well as the other guys. He came in, he had a great plan for us, as well as, a great coach really on the field, kind of helped us improve our football knowledge, improve how we see defenses, things like that, and just little things about that. And not even just on the field stuff and off the field things, especially just preaching how to be a man and just how to take care of things, and basically how to be a pro, honestly, how to take care of business and be responsible. And so, like, I would say huge when Coach Ellerbe got here, he hit the ground running with us, and you see it paid off, as well as see Darnell with a lot of success, me as well, and just the offensive line in general, those with everybody else back there. So huge thanks and praise for Coach Ellerbe. So
really fun stuff there from Jerome Carvin. Had a great time catching up with him on the Rocky Top Rewind. I know a lot of you guys probably watched that live, or maybe have gone back and listened to it, or watched it since Sunday night. But for those that haven't, really good stuff there from Jerome Carvin. And, hey, we do the Rocky Top Rerun every Sunday night, volquest.com. And appreciate, we won't do it this Sunday night because of Easter, but it's always a fun time. And it's great catching up with Jerome Carvin. All right, when we come back, we're going to hit your mailbag questions. A lot of good ones in here today, so stay tuned for a little Twitter Tuesday action when we return. All right, guys, welcome back into it. Your Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. Rate me 5 stars. Leave me a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you would, please. You know it. Please subscribe to the Locked On Vols YouTube channel. Had somebody shout out to, let me see if I can find it real quick. Had somebody say they just subbed yesterday. They left me a comment, and man, I was really appreciative of that. Let's see here. Tennessee Soul says, hey, just sub, man. Hey, I appreciate that so much. I really, really do. So if you are a new subscriber to the channel, let me know. Fill in that comment section. Let me know that you just subscribed, and we'll continue to grow this show each and every day, get in front of more and more Tennessee fans. What we do every single Tuesday here on the shows, Twitter Tuesday, when you send in mailbag questions. We'll start with Grant. Grant says, what position group will have the toughest time to meet expectations? I believe the offensive line will struggle early in the season just because of the amount of talent that has left the team. Just interested to see if you agree or have another position group in mind. No, that's a good one. It really is, because that's the biggest question I have right now for Tennessee. That offensive line, what's the progress? Have you found another tackle? I think John Campbell's one of your tackles. What about that guard? Ollie Lane's repping with the first team right now. Will Andre Carrick take him over at some point? Will that be in fall camp? We'll have to see. But right now, it's Ollie Lane. And again, there's a lot worse that you can do with Ollie Lane. Ollie Lane has started 5 games for you at Tennessee, and he's in Tennessee, I believe, has won every single one. He's played a whole lot of football, played a ton of football for you in 2021, that first season with Josh Heupel. So that's my biggest question mark right now. But, at the end of the day, once you get that thing rolling and humming and hit that tempo and all that, I like the offense. I feel like the offense is going to take care of itself, because also, and I mean this with all due respect, you don't have to be Darnell Wright to be good on this offensive line. Really, it's offensive lineman friendly. Now, you still got to block guys, you still got to move guys, still got to open up holes, still got to protect your quarterback, but it's very much offensive line friendly, if that makes sense. I think receivers, doesn't matter who's out there, they're going to go, right? I think linebackers are going to be better. I think defensive line is going to be a little bit better. I would say secondary, but what expectations are there right now anyway? I mean, the only position group that comes to mind would be quarterback, right? And it's because Hendon Hooker set that bar so high. Joe Milton is not Hendon Hooker. Joe Milton, in my opinion, is not as good as Hendon Hooker, but that doesn't mean Joe Milton's not good. He's just his own player. But Hendon set that bar so high, and with this offense under Hendon Hooker's leadership was so good, I would say, in terms of meeting expectations, it might be the quarterback position in Joe Milton right now. And again, that doesn't mean that Joe's not going to do a great job, but just kind of where it was with Hendon Hooker, it was so good. So, Grant, that's a really good question there. We'll go to Willie the Kid. Sounds like Deshaun Bishop was turning some heads, running with the 2s at the scrimmage with his high school stats and his productivity at the high school level. Why was he under-recruited? Yeah, Deshaun Bishop's a good story. Hopefully he'll continue on here in the spring camp. It's big for the staff just to kind of see who he was, what he looked like out there, and he's off to a good start. Deshaun Bishop, he is not the fastest guy in the world. He's not the biggest guy in the world. And as a high school running back, man, they ran the legs off of him. They ran him so much. And so that's kind of a turnoff when you're kind of a recruiter, right? I mean, you don't want to see. That's why for the longest times, Alabama running backs never really did much in the NFL. And I understand King Henry's doing a lot right now, but for the longest time, Alabama would just, before Lane Kiffin and before they kind of changed their offense, they would just run the crap out of those guys, and they would never produce, to the level of their draft stock at the NFL. And so I think for me, that's a lot of kind of what it had to do with. But he's not the fastest guy, but he is tough. He runs tough, and that's actually what Dylan Sampson said on Monday when asked about Deshaun Bishop. He's like, he runs tough. He asks really good questions. He asks better questions than I do at this point in time, and he's doing a good job. Another one here from Willie the Kid. Do you think Tennessee utilizes the tight ends more in the passing game this season than the previous 2 seasons? I like to say yes, but I'm not going to say yes until I see it, right? It's like running 4 wide receiver sets. I'd like to say they do that, but until that happens, I'm not going to say they're going to do it or put anybody else in the secondary, right? They've just not been a big focal point of the off. Now, they've been existent. It's not like they've been non-existent. They've had some big catches. They get a couple targets a game. But maybe this was just a scrimmage one type deal, but the tight ends were very involved in the passing game. So as of right now, I'll say no, but it'd be good to see because I think McCallum Castles can really help you out. And Ethan Davis, whether it's this year, probably later in his career, can really help you out in that regard. Let's go to Braden. Braden says, if you had to pick an overarching theme for the upcoming football season, what would it be? This isn't a theme that like you're going to see plastered all over the locker room, right? Because you don't want to. My theme for this team would be sustainability. Sustain what you got, right? Sure, you want to get better. Absolutely. You want to get better. You want to take that next step. You want to beat Georgia. You want to go to Atlanta. You want to be in the college football playoff. But for me, it's like, okay, it's kind of that question we talked about last week. Is Tennessee back? Well, can you stack season on top of season on top of season? For me, if you sustain what you did last year, and that doesn't mean you have to win 11 games or 10 games, but can you win 9 games of the regular season and go win a bowl game and have 10 wins? To me, that's sustaining. Can you beat 1 or 2 of the big 3 like you did this past year? To me, that's sustaining. And so to me, that's the theme. For them, I don't know, probably Atlanta bound, right? They want to go play in the SEC championship, and that should be their mindset. But for me, it's like, can you sustain and stack season on top of season on top of season? That's kind of what it is for me. Also, are you excited for the new NCAA football game to come back? What would Tennessee's overall be out of 99 in the game? It's a great question. Gosh, I used to play that game, NC Dubs, back in the day, man. It was fun. Download those rosters. Make them, you always create yourself and make yourself 99 overall. Get a little cowboy collar, little half sleeves, little visor, make a team color, team color tape around your cleats. Oh, yeah. I have not played a video game in years. I don't know if I will play the new video game. I don't have a console anymore, so I don't know. But overall, for Tennessee's, that's certainly an investment I would think about. I need to get that PS5 because I keep seeing Hogwarts Legacy, and I probably need to play that too. So it's just a matter of trying to find some time to play it. For Tennessee's overall grade out of 99 in the game, I bet right now they'd be 86, 87. Is that too low? I mean, I don't want to give them a 90 because you lost so much. And think about the positions you lost. Quarterback, should have been a Heisman finalist. Biletnikoff Award winner at wide receiver. First round offensive tackle. You lost a lot of critical pieces. A 1,000-yard receiver the year before in Cedric Tillman. Byron Young, your best pass rusher. You lost a lot. And so I don't want to overblow it and say they'd be a 90, but I think 86, 87, which is a good score. If you disagree, let me know. That's a really, really good question, man. I appreciate you presenting that. Got a couple more here we'll run through. Let's go to Andrew. Starting 5 for Vols basketball and starting 5 on the offensive line next year. All right. Keep in mind, in basketball, this is what we had to work with right now. I'm not going to project Tennessee's going to get this guy out of the portal or whatever. This is who Tennessee has right now. That's kind of how I'm doing this. Zakai's healthy. He's your point guard. Freddie DeLoyne is your shooting guard. If Julian Phillips is on the roster, he's your 3. Toby Awaka is your 4. And then Jonas Adu is your 5. I could see it being Zakai Ziegler at the 1, Freddie at the 2, Julian at the 3, Portal to get a power forward at the 4, and Jonas Adu at the 5. If Julian Phillips goes to the NBA, then Jemiah Mashack will be the in-house option to be the starter at the 3. That's kind of how I see that right now. Let me know if you agree or disagree. For the offensive line, as of right now, the starting 5, if healthy, would be left to right, in my opinion, John Campbell, Ollie Lane, Cooper Mays, Javonte Spraggins, and Gerald Mincy, probably. Will Ollie Lane hold that spot? I don't know. We'll see. But right now, that's what it is. I don't want to project because I haven't seen enough of Andre Curie yet, and I haven't heard enough about him. Someone asked me here in just a moment, and it's one of the YouTube questions to Ian, and I'll go ahead and answer right now. I mean, he's here. He's adapting. He's learning the system. He's learning the tempo. I mean, he's 8 practices in, right? So it's not like he's going to win any All-Americans right now. So, what's he look like in fall camp? He's here. He's practicing. They say good things about him. But, like, in terms of being a starting guard right now, I don't know if you're there yet. It takes a little while. But I know that's his goal, and I know that's what Tennessee probably wants. Let's go to Daniel. Daniel says, how much impact do you see with the freshman receivers, given that we're shorthanded this spring? I don't think any freshman receivers will make a big impact on the field next year, but right now, Nathan Leacock's getting a ton of run because he is out there, and you've got a banged-up Brew McCoy. You've got a guy that's in and out right now, Dante Thornton. Ramel Keaton missed Monday's practice. I mean, there's opportunities there for sure. Chaz Nimrod got a little banged up in the scrimmage. He's okay, but there's opportunities there. So Nathan Leacock is getting a ton of run. He's going through some growing pains, but he'll get there. So much potential. I think he'll be a good one for Tennessee. Is Deshaun Bishop a surprise given his recruitment? Yeah, I kind of touched on that a moment ago. Let's see what Deshaun does in the next 2 scrimmages and obviously in the orange and white game. He's a good athlete. He runs hard. I watched him play for 4 years over here at Carnes. He was fun to watch. Rooting for him, of course. We'll see if he can sustain it and kind of what he looks like, as we go further along in camp. And word is Nico is extremely impressive. Is that rumor or factual? I would say it's factual to an extent. I mean, he's not doing everything right now, nor would you expect him to. Again, he is 8 practices into his collegiate career. He is learning this offense at a fast pace. He is learning this high-octane tempo offense, trying to read, analyze, make decisions on the fly. So there's a lot of learning moments for Nico. But in terms of just ability, throwing the football, quick twitch, making decisions, all that type of stuff, yeah, there's been a lot of things that have stood out about Nico so far in spring practice. But again, it'll be a work in progress. Kids should still be in high school right now. And we'll go to David. David says, we have several 7-on-7 teams roll through. Is that a common occurrence for schools or an advantage of Knoxville being a bigger city that hosts tournaments? A little bit of both. There are 7-on-7 tournaments all over the South all the time. Gatlinburg has a ginormous multi-field facility up there next to Gatlinburg Pittman High School where there's like 10 plus fields. So they host stuff up there all the time. And so you will see 7-on-7 teams from around the country come to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And while they're here, they'll come by Tennessee, right? Sometimes there's in Nashville. While they're in the mid-state, they'll drive over and see Tennessee. Maybe they're on their way to Birmingham or they're on their way to Florida. And while they're passing through, they'll stop by at Tennessee. When you travel with a 7-on-7 team, typically wherever you're going, you try to see some of those big high-profile schools on the way. And so Tennessee is a beneficiary of that because, again, a lot of teams come to Gatlinburg to play and compete in 7-on-7. Got one more question, and we will leave it to Steven. Steven says, Eric, would you mind sharing your sports background? I've been watching you for around 1.5 years. Thank you so much for that. You have mentioned numerous times that you've played sports in the past. I would like to hear about it if you have time to share. Yeah, Steven, for sure, man. I mean, I was just like all of us probably, played pretty much anything growing up that you could possibly play. Basketball, baseball, football, soccer. I did I wrestled for a couple years. I threw in track. I did pretty much everything. But, my sports were football and baseball. Baseball, played travel ball up until, I think, my junior year of high school. And I played football, at Carson Newman Division II, just about 30 minutes north of Knoxville. Really great historic Division II program. Played for the legendary Coach Ken Sparks, the GOAT, the best, the only coach I will call coach because he was my coach. But I recognize that, Division II football is not anywhere close athletically, speed-wise and all that to, what Tennessee's doing and, Southeastern Conference football and all that. But still, like a lot of the stuff they do in practice, the drills, the terminology, the two-a-days, the off-season workout regimens, the nutrition program, like all the type of stuff that these guys are going through. I went through it myself, and so I feel like I can kind of speak that language a little bit. So it just kind of gives me a different perspective when I'm watching the game live. When I go back and when I watch it on my rewatch and all that, I can kind of see things, and I like to think I can pick up on things that maybe some other people in my position don't. Doesn't mean I get everything, of course, but that's kind of my sports background. So football guy, baseball guy, did play-by-play for the Kingsport Mets for 2 summers, did a little bit of Smokies as well, so love the sport of baseball, but football is what I played. All right, that is going to do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys. Great questions for Twitter Tuesday mailbag show. Get those in there for next week as well. And any questions you guys have, man, we'll spend 2 or 3 segments if we need to. We'll do the whole show. I appreciate you guys, as always, for making Locked On Vols your first listen. Make Locked On SEC your second listen today. Chris Gordy does an awesome job. Locked On SEC. He dives around news and notes from around the league in 30 minutes or less. That is Locked On SEC, your second listen, right behind Locked On Vols, which is your first listen each and every day. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. We'll chat up Josh Ward tomorrow for a little Ward Wednesday action and more. Same time, same place. We'll try it again tomorrow. This is Locked On Vols.